So, hello everyone. Thanks for making the time whatever time zones you're in. It looks like I've got a fairly international crowd as well. So next 58 minutes, I'll be giving you an update or an enterprise social roadmap. And it's definitely exciting to be on this call because we've made a ton of announcements last as part of the disclosure plan for SharePoint Conference 2014 that was held in Vegas. So hopefully I'll bring all of you up to speed that could not be in Vegas last week to what are some of the exciting things that we've been working on and that we're going to be delivering in the future. So brief introduction, I'm Christoph Feissinger. I'm based in the Enterprise Social marketing team, and I focus on our vision and strategy around this topic. And notice I've said Enterprise Social because, as you'll see later, it's not just Yammer, it's not just 365, it's many other things that we're working on. If you want to reach out, I'll give you a couple of ways to reach out to me if you get follow-up questions. And I'll also put my Twitter handle on this slide. And I think Nanette will make all the slides available to all the attendees after the fact. So you can definitely take a screenshot if you want, but we'll make those PowerPoint available. So a couple of things that I'll be covering in the next hour or so is, first I'll talk about this concept of work like a network. And it's very important to talk about this because that's what frames pretty much a lot of the investments that we're doing today and in the future in our product stack. Then I'll be spending the bulk of the time on the new stuff that we announced last week. And then I'll wrap up with additional content you need to be aware to go on this journey to become agile and leverage Enterprise Social. And I'll give you pointers to additional resources to, again, help you get started, whether for you and your company or you and your customer, on all of the above. Two things I put on this slide that I've added this morning is, last week we announced that we've launched a Yammer external network called the Office 365 IT Pro Network, and it's free. Anyone can join, so I highly encourage all of you to join this network and ask every questions you get about 365, obviously not just about Yammer or Enterprise Social, but anything you get. And then the second thing I want you to bookmark and read carefully once, twice, 3 times is the blog post that pretty much recaps everything I'm going to talk about, but in plain English with words. So that was the announcement we made. So with that, let me just dive into the first section, which is work like a network. And the story is, basically, I'll make it very brief. We did a full video last week that we aired at the keynote. But the idea is, in our personal life today, I can stay in touch with friends using Facebook. I can look for a job using LinkedIn. I can talk to my mother using Skype. I can tweet all day long about what goes through my mind, et cetera, et cetera. And so the idea is, in our personal life, we tend to be more connected, more aware. We get information faster about a product we're about to buy, about a service we got, whether we're happy or not. And that has created tremendous disruptions in the marketplace. Some businesses had to reinvent themselves. Some businesses have gone out of business. And this is, people say, oh, is this just for IT? No, this is worldwide in every country. I think I haven't seen yet, even government are feeling the pressure from elected, from their taxpayers, from their constituents. So the idea is, okay, if the outside world has moved so fast and evolved so fast, why don't we replicate that in the enterprise? And when you look at how we work in the enterprise, we're nowhere near as agile and as connected as we are on the outside. So what are we going to do about it? And that's what I'm going to talk about in the next couple slides. Slides not loading. Apologize for that. Again, we'll make the slides available. Just listen to the talking point, I think, is what matters. And the slides, you can read it. You can see the slides after the fact. But again, we'll make those available. So this is just an example of what are the challenges we face in the workplace today is to find an expert, whether it's getting help on a personal thing, on a project I'm working on, or to help a customer. Sometimes the expert that might have the answer might not be in my group, in my team, it might not be in my building, it might be someone else. And again, it's that challenge. How do you break those silos so you can be very agile and respond to whatever issues, concern, or help you need to get your job done? This slide be very brief, but a lot of people ask me when I talk about enterprise social is, hey, what is the value? What is the ROI? And I can do a full session on this, and there's plenty of content about this, a lot of case studies. But basically, the three pillars or the three scenarios that we think enterprise social helps you move the needle on is first, it helps you to listen. And you think you're listening to your employees with maybe distribution list or IM, but we think you can do a lot better than that. And it's not just listening on the inside, but it's also listening on the outside. You know, if someone's saying something bad about your brand, about a product, or good, or what are your competitors doing? So we're investing in all those areas to help you stay on top of things and stay on top of the disruptions happening out there. So again, you can continue to be a leader, whatever your business is in. Adapt, you know, again, it's the idea that listening is one thing, but if something is there's a defect in your product or service can be improved or sales process or efficiency can be improved, what are you going to do about it? And that's this notion of adapt. And at the end, all those will hopefully lead to growth. You know, if you can respond to market changes, if you can respond to and adapt to your new customer needs, then hopefully your company will be agile and will grow and stay healthy, again, regardless of the industries and regardless of the size. So that's the value, tremendous value. Let me move to the next slide. So we made an acquisition now over 18 months ago called Yammer, and I know all you guys hopefully are on 365 since this is the 365 webcast. You know, Yammer has tremendous momentum. The numbers disclosed last week, 400,000 organizations worldwide using it, 85% of Fortune 500. So it's got tremendous momentum. And why is this important in our roadmap? And you'll see later on that it's everywhere. But before I talk about roadmap, some of the key concepts of social networking are going to is what I'm going to talk about next. So the first thing is social. So again, this notion of this new way of communicating to pull people, it's open. I can pull people in a conversation even though they're not part of my team. I can like it. I can tag things to bubble it up to my inbox. I can praise people. It's fairly new in the workforce. You know, the whole space is evolving rapidly. But again, we think it's going to, back to what I was mentioning earlier, it might generate tremendous value in your business, whether it's on the inside or the outside or both. Yammer groups, you'll see why this is important. You know, Yammer pioneered that. It's open. Everyone can join. Yes, you can make them close, et cetera, et cetera. But a group can be many things. It could be a community of interests. It could be a physical team. It could be a go-to-market team, it could be an engineering team, it could be a compete team, it could be a sales team, or it could be just people that have a common interest that's not related to work. So that's Yammer pioneered that. And then the last thing that really makes enterprise social networking unique is this notion of the graph. And Yammer called it the enterprise graph, and you'll see later on how we're expanding that. But the idea of a graph is based on all the things you're doing in the network on a regular basis, whether it's replying to messages, whether it's liking a message, whether it's praising someone, whether it's putting a document, but all those signals accumulates to a persona. And potentially the graph is based on all my action and activities, the graph is going to start making a recommendation. Hey, Christophe, I think you should join this community of interest because it looks like you get a lot of knowledge to talk about this particular competitor or this particular product we're about to launch. Or maybe, hey, Christophe, you should connect with Nanette. It looks like Nanette is doing webcast on 365, so potentially based on our action and based on what I do, the graph is going to start connecting the dot, whether it's people, content, across the network. So extremely important because the graph basically, by connecting the nodes, whether it's content, whether it's people, over time, it grows exponentially in value as it connects more and more people throughout your network. And the reason I give this little brief introduction is you'll see why those are extremely important and how we took some of those concepts that Yammer pioneered and expanded that to the entire Office suite. So before I talk about roadmap, 2 slides. First of all, I'll go over this fairly quickly. I assume that you guys read the Office 365 technical blog and you're on top of all the things we're doing. And this slide kind of recaps what we've done for the past year or so. And when I presented that at SharePoint conference last week, I've highlighted 4 key milestones, and I'll just focus on 3 that are 365 related. But last June we made Yammer the default in 365. We believe that we've making that recommendation of Go Yammer, and we believe that you should only have 1 newsfeed to worry about, not 2. So we recommend using Yammer and not the SharePoint newsfeed. The second thing we did in November is we believe that everyone should have access to the premium version of Yammer, which is called Yammer Enterprise. And the reason is that Yammer Enterprise, well, let me step back. Yammer Basic, which is the free version, gives you all the usage you would expect, whether you're a novice or whether you're a power user. You can do all the fancy things in your network. The paid version of Yammer is mainly for IT. That's what enables you to do Active Directory sync, single sign-on, to do keyword monitoring, et cetera, et cetera. And in November, we made Yammer Enterprise available at no additional cost for all the E1 to E4 subscription customers. And then the other 2 things we announced last week is we're not going to stop there. We're also going to make Yammer Enterprise available at no additional cost to our education offering in 365. I think that's 8.2 to 8.3. And then we're also going to expand that to our mid-sized business offering, which is the M SKU. So again, we're going to put Yammer Enterprise hopefully in not just for our largest customers, but for all other industries and other segments. And those are going to be available in the spring. The last thing I wanted to mention is that notion of simplified logging, and we released that in February. And basically that gives you the ability when you're in 365, when you click on Yammer, you don't have to authenticate again, assuming you already have a Yammer profile, and we pass a security token between 365 on Yammer. You might say, Christophe, why is this important? This is important because this is a first step in this journey that we're on of working around a single identity and a single user profile. And I'll talk about that later on. So that's what we've done. I've talked about the past. One quick thing that I want to be clear, I know hopefully 99% of you guys on the call are 365 customer, but let's be clear. But we've been lending that guidance a year ago of Go Yammer, and I've reiterated last week at SharePoint conference. And the first reason obviously gives you immediate adoption. It's mobile, it's everywhere, it's very easy to get started. It doesn't matter if you're an expert, if you're sitting in front of a PC, if you get an iPhone, whatever it is, you can start engaging and providing value. Rapid innovation, extremely important. Yammer is on this cadence now of daily updates. Now, not all those daily updates might be significant, but it still shows you the pace of the innovation that we're on with this service. And then the last bullet that I want to stress, because over and over I hear people boxing enterprise social to SharePoint on Yammer. Well, that's not true. Enterprise social goes way beyond that. And let's say I'm in manufacturing, let's say I'm in retail. If I'm driving a heavy-duty equipment in the mine, I'm not in front of a beautiful SharePoint portal. I'm not in front of a PC. I might have a smart device to be connected to my home base to know whatever the weather conditions or whatever I need to do. If I'm a bagger at a retailer or if I'm a waiter at a restaurant, same thing. I'm still part of the company, and it doesn't matter that I'm paid minimum wage or I'm a novice. Potentially, I can provide valuable feedback to my company, whether it's improving safety record, whether it's improving throughput sales defects. So it's all about connecting everyone, not just the folks that are sitting in front of SharePoint in a beautiful Windows 8 PC. So that's what I mean by connect everyone. I'll skip all that because you guys are online. Again, the call to action is, if you haven't done so, Yammer should be your default in 365. You should not be using the SharePoint newsfeed. And then I put this slide, this last bullet, it was mainly for the on-prem, but I'll say regardless, which is we announced at the SharePoint conference that yes, we'll ship another version of SharePoint, pretty much like we'll ship another version of Exchange, another version of Project, another version of Office. But at least on the social front, We'll maintain whatever we have today in 2013, but we're not going to invest anymore in SharePoint Social. And let me stress, I'm talking about SharePoint Social. Yes, we'll invest in SharePoint. Here, I'm only focusing on the SharePoint Social. Hence our recommendations to go Yammer. You know, this is the fast-moving train that you should be on, not on the SharePoint Social train. But again, we hear you. Typically, the reasons people say, you know, I was in Europe a couple of weeks ago, why they're not on Yammer, or one of the reasons is security, compliance, fear of the cloud. And we totally hear you, and we're definitely not sitting still. Like one of the things I announced last week is, for instance, Yammer is hosted by a third party in California, and this calendar year, we're going to be moving Yammer off to 3 of our US global foundation services data centers. So that's going to give us more capacity. That's going to help with disaster recovery. But one thing that's going to help us as well is to get closer to the Office 365 Trust Center. So, I mean, getting some of those compliance on third party is going to take time, but we're definitely serious that over time, Yammer should be at the same level as 365 in terms of whatever. Is it EU, is it ISO, is it FISMA, is it HIPAA, is it DPA, whatever, all those third party compliance that you would expect from a leading cloud vendor that is Microsoft. So with that background, let's talk about the future. And by the way, I'll be taking definitely a Q&A, so that's why I'm going kind of fast, because I do want to take questions at the end. So I'll talk briefly about what's coming up. I'll do a demo, and then we'll take some Q&A. So basically, the stuff we're working on can be articulated around those 3 pillars. And the first one is what we call Inline Social. Second one is groups, and the third one is Office Graph. So Inline Social, what does that mean? Again, it's the high-level pitch is something we've been saying for a while, that social should not be a destination. What does that mean? It means if Christoph's working on a beautiful presentation to do this webcast, he shouldn't go to Yammer and he wants, let's say he wants to get feedback. I shouldn't have to go somewhere else to get feedback from my peers. I should have maybe that document on the left and conversation on the right. If Christoph is a seller, and let's say he's using Dynamics CRM, and he needs help from, let's say, marketing or engineering or someone, an expert within my company, to help me close that opportunity with that whatever customers I'm about to see, I shouldn't have to leave that interface that's surfaced by our CRM applications to get help within my organization. Those conversations should come in context to that business application that I'm using day in, day out. So that's what we mean by inline social. And again, I'll be demoing that next. The next thing, which is that we announced, is this notion of groups. So again, what we see today in the workforce is pretty much what I was saying is we do have application silos, and that includes our Microsoft applications. We get folks using email, folks using Link, folks using SharePoint, folks using Yammer. And it wouldn't be nice if you didn't have to worry about what are my friends using, and everything is seamless into one entity called groups. And that's what we've been working on. And basically think of group as a concept that unifies people across all those services. And you know, we basically, from a technical point of view, we've created a layer above Exchange, above SharePoint, above Yammer, that manages identity and membership across all those workloads. So it doesn't matter if I create in the future, it doesn't matter if I create a group in Yammer or a group in Outlook Web App or in SharePoint, but potentially we're gonna connect all those dots so that your colleague that prefers Outlook Web App, they're not cut off from all the conversation, from the discussion. They're seeing the same assets, et cetera, et cetera. So that's what the group concept, the group announcement we made last week. And then save the best for the last, the Office Graph. This one, I cannot mince, let me step back. This one is the most exciting one, in my humble opinion. I've been at Microsoft for 13 years, and I do think this one is a game changer. I've been using it, you know, I guess I'm lucky, dog fooder at Microsoft for over 3 months now. And this is just sheer productivity. Basically, think of the graph. It gets signal from what my colleagues are doing, whether on a link meeting, whether on a distribution list, where we're in a Yammer group, where we're in a SharePoint site, and it aggregates all those signals and it renders what matters to me. It makes suddenly everything very predictive. I can see what's relevant, and it's not just I need to search things, I need to search my inbox, I need to search SharePoint, I need to ping my colleague or whatever we presented a week ago or whatever. I now get very relevant signals to help me get work done. I'll get very relevant signals of what's happening in my organizations and who I should connect with. So that's the Office graph. And then the other thing we announced last week is to surface those rich connection. We announced codename Oslo, which is a code name for an app that surfaces those rubies, those diamonds, those nuggets, those signals from the graph. And I'll be demoing that later on. But what you can see on this slide is so think of the Office graph as an extension of the enterprise graph that Yammer pioneered, and now we're taking it across the entire stack. And then what you're seeing at the bottom is, I'll demo it on the Windows 8 app, but we're not going to stop there. Yes, we're going to surface that we'll have an HTML5 browser app. So whether you're on Safari, Firefox, or beautiful Internet Explorer, whether you're on a tablet, you're on a large screen, on your PC, you'll get the signals. And yes, we're not going to stop there. We'll also have a mobile app. And yes, we're not going to stop there. We'll put the graph everywhere next to a search box. So anywhere where you search something, we'll give you what's relevant based on your query, but we'll also make suggestions based on your query results, thanks to the Office graph findings. Two things I want to say about the Office graph is we're not going to stop there. People say, oh, Office is just Office Suite. Absolutely not. There was a full session last week. Yes, we're going to extend that to line of business applications. So there was, for instance, in a presentation, some might talk about getting signals from, let's say, your dynamic CRM. You know, it might be very relevant to know how many cases my colleague closes or how many sales opportunity my colleague is working on. And yes, so we're going to extend the signal. So it's not just Exchange, SharePoint, Yammer, and Link, but also the rest of the Microsoft suite. And yes, we do care about our line of business that are not Microsoft, so we'll be able to feed signals from our third-party app into the graph. So enough talking, let's just do a demo. So let me switch. I'm just going to share my desktop. And I'll wait a couple seconds to make sure everyone can see. Let me make sure everyone can see my desktop. Loading, loading, loading. Okay. So basically, so I'll do the demo in the order I just presented. So first thing, I'll show you some of those inline experiences. Then I'll show you groups. And then I'll end with the Office graph on Oslo. I see people chatting. Let's just make sure everyone can see. Still loading. Okay. So yes, this will get recorded. Yes, we already have recordings of this already available, and I put the links in the deck. So I'll just move on since we don't have a lot of time. So what you're looking at here is, look, the Office 365's navigation bar, also what we call the suite nav, with Yammer at the bottom. It's seamless. I can go from OneDrive to Yammer all day long. It's got the same look and feel. It doesn't open a different window. So it's seamless. For me, the end user, it's all Microsoft. It's got that nice look and feel, pretty much like you would expect today when you're going from, let's say, doing a link call or doing a little email to your OneDrive. So the question I get is, okay, Christophe, so first of all, this is coming in by summer. And the reason why this is important is this is the second wave of identity work we're doing. Basically, to enable that, literally, I didn't show it to you because I'll spare you the details, but I literally logged into Yammer with my 365 credentials. Yammer, the service, was able to recognize that I'm also a licensed 365 customer, so it served the suite navigation. So that's the next wave. You might say, Christophe, why is this important? This is important because when we deliver this, after that, it's all net new innovation. once we do have that trust relationship between 365, my 365 identity on my Yammer identity, that's when we're going to start working on other things, like let's say link on Skype presence integration with Yammer, or how about a single user profile where we start syncing artifacts about your user profile across the different entities. So if I put a picture of myself in Yammer or in SharePoint or whatever, my hobby in one of those systems, I don't have to repeat the same or copy and paste the same information in the other service. Automatically things are synced in the back end. So again, it's an important milestone that we'll reach this summer. After that, once all the services by the directional sync across my identity, then we're going to be doing a ton of work around single user profile and deeper integration with Link on Skype. So stay tuned for those announcements. So the other thing I want to show you about Inline, so this is Inline Social. I'll go to my OneDrive. And one thing we announced and we showed the keynote, which is what I was showing earlier, is I shouldn't have to, okay, hang on. It's like, let me reconnect. I see a lot of people. Let me go back here. Try that again. Okay. So hopefully, for those of you that are getting the video stream of my demo, what I've got on the left, I just click on a PowerPoint web app in my OneDrive. And yes, you can do that in any document library, not just my personal storage. And then on the right-hand side, I get the ability to start a conversation. So again, if you remember back in 365 last September, I announced the ability to post from any document library, and that was good. But the big problem with that is, sure, I could start a conversation on any document, but to see the results of those conversations, I would had to go to Yammer, which was a little bit of a disjointed experience. Here, we're bringing it side by side. So this is on a document. But this works on any asset that we put into the that you can put in a document library. Here, when I was at SharePoint conference, I get a picture with President Clinton. So you see, I can start discussions with a picture, and then yes, you can do that with videos as well. So any assets that you can put on OneDrive or in a document library, you've got the ability to start a conversation. So this is a video we did to stress that notion of working as a network. And if you just want to focus on the asset, yes, you can collapse it. So you don't have to see it, and you can look and work on whatever you need to do with the asset on the left. So again, it's the idea of really lowering the barrier and the friction to help you get work done, whether you want to get feedback from your peers, whether you want to announce something within your organization. So that's Inline Social Experiences. Let's switch gear to groups. So I go back to Yammer. And like I say, Yammer pioneered this notion of groups, and I've got a set of groups on the left-hand side, and I'm just going to go to the Marketing Professional Development group. And there's 10 members in this group, some of my peers, and yes, we get documents, yes, we get conversation in this group, and that's what you can see here. And again, the notion of groups was all about breaking siloed across Exchange, SharePoint, Yammer. So that's the Marketing Professional group. Watch when I go to Outlook. So I'm going to go to Outlook web app, I should say. And yes, I've got my beautiful inbox, but I'm just going to go to that group, which is that list on the bottom left. And you can see I've got the same groups out in Yammer. And yes, I can control the order of those if, I can pin this at the top. And look, it's the same conversation that we had in Yammer. It's the same PowerPoint that my colleague Steve Chu was discussing. And guess what? Yes, same thing, I can have a conversation about this document. We can be doing co-authoring, if I do edit. I think I had Steve logged in another session, so let's just do this. I'll pause a little bit since it looks like my screen the webcast is not going as fast as yours. Make sure Steve is connected. Okay, good. Well, I'll just move on. But basically, yes, you can be doing co-authoring of this deck, thanks to the co-authoring that we released last fall around the web app. PowerPoint, Excel, and Word. And then on the right-hand side, I can have a conversation. Think of the time saver you have today. When someone sends you a document, you've got to save it on your hard drive, put your initial or V2, make your update, upload it again, and hopefully, and everyone does that. Here in one click, this document, I can store it in the group's SharePoint site, conversation on the left, so no more different version of the truth. I can co-author near real time in my favorite browser. Here we go, now we can see Steve here, if you pay attention. And then I can have conversation all in context. I don't need to open a different session. I don't need to open Outlook. I can open PowerPoint if I want, but I can do it pretty much all using the PowerPoint Online. So that's the groups. All the conversation is synced with Yammer. I don't miss a beat, regardless of what is my preference to engage. And it goes beyond that. A group has a notion of calendar. So you can see here in blue is my calendar, and I can start overlaying different groups. So here you can see in yellow that team group. I can overlay that to my calendar, and if I don't want to miss a beat, I can add this recurring meeting to my calendar. And why is this beautiful? This is beautiful because from there on, that calendar item is in my personal calendar, or my personal work calendar, I should say, so that whether I get an iPhone, a Windows phone, whatever mobile device, I have no excuses to meet the regular team meeting, the happy hour, the celebration, the lunch, whatever that group is doing. Another thing that gets me excited, being a big Yammer user, is Yammer will now have calendaring, right? So if you're using a Yammer group to manage projects, you guess pretty soon you'll have calendaring. So again, you can keep everyone in line on key dates, key milestones, key announcements that you want that project team to be aligned with. So I got calendars. The group has a notion of calendars. And like I mentioned, so let me right click here. Actually, let me do this. And you can see groups has different artifacts. I'm going to go to the group site. And guess what the group site is? It's SharePoint. All the storage, all the artifacts that are part of this group are nicely stored in SharePoint. Do they have it governed by workflows? Whatever you want, it's SharePoint. It's just a new SharePoint site. It's not the one you have today. It's called, it's a SharePoint group site. And so I get the same document. I'll spare you the details, but yes, I can have that inline experience I was showing you earlier. So here I click on a document, and same thing, same experience here. I don't need to go somewhere else, and by default, I can have a conversation within my marketing team group. I'm not going to repeat that. And like you would expect, it's the same team member. So I click on the left, and you can see it's those same 10 people that I showed you in Yammer before. How do we manage that? Basically, group is basically an Active Directory object. We manage the identity there. And then basically, again, like I said earlier, we built a layer to manage membership and that group across all the services. So when you think you're adding someone in SharePoint, you're not actually doing so. You're adding that person to that Uber level, which then adds that member to Outlook Web App, to SharePoint, and to Yammer. And the other question I get is, so groups are open by default. Again, we think there's a lot of value to working openly in your organization, similar to what Yammer pioneered. But yes, you can make groups top secrets so that it's invite only and it's not even listed, so no one can find it in your organization. Exactly like the same things you can do in Yammer today. So that's groups. Let me show you Oslo, and then we'll go back to Q&A. So here I'm just launching Windows 8. I wait a couple seconds to make sure Oslo, which is the Windows 8 app. And while this is loading, again, like I said, we're right now testing a Windows 8 app, but we're not going to stop there. So right now, like I said, we'll have a browser version, a web-based version, so it will work on all your browser, and yes, we'll have mobile versions as well, mobile apps. So Oslo, again, like I mentioned earlier, surfaces the signals that have been calculated and computed by the Office graph in the back end. Each one of these think of each one of these as a piece of content. Now, a piece of content could be something within my organization, like maybe a document on OneDrive, a recurring meeting in Link, a group, like I mentioned, a Yammer group, or it could be an external asset. It could be a video. Hey, I've seen this video that our competitor is doing. Maybe we should do something about it. So I read the following article in the Wall Street Journal. Maybe we should do something about it. So that's what each card is. Now, each card, the reason this first one is pushed is because the Office graph sees that it's got very strong signals and a very strong connection to what I do every day. It's got 2 likes. It's been discussed in Yammer 4 times. It's been viewed 136 times. So again, this is not just in vacuum randomly pushing content. It pushes is based on all those calculations that are happening on the back end, trying to connect the dot, and based on the connections, how strong the connection, that's what defines the order in the graph, in Oslo. So each one different asset. And yes, I can start looking at all those assets. I click on one, I'll skip, I don't know what this one was, but it looks like it was a PowerPoint. So, I can click on it, I can preview it, and I can start having discussions. Or I can say, yeah, I think this is great. Let me pick one which is external, that blog post that Jeff Teeper did as part of SharePoint conference. So this one is a piece of content that is publicly available. It's on a website. It's not something that's in our an internal doc library or an email. And like I said, you can start putting gesture. Yeah, I do like this asset. I want to have a discussion about this blog post. I was unaware. Let me ask questions to the team that published that, et cetera, et cetera. So I can navigate. This is touch enabled because it's Windows 8 modern app. But like you would expect, we can slice and dice, and we offer different views of what the signals that are stored in the graph. And that's what you can see here. I mean, how many times you've attended a webcast internally and maybe a team meeting or something, and you just don't remember what was showed to you. You don't remember where it is. Was it an attachment in the webcast? Was it an email? Did I miss an email? Is it on my team site? And that's what presented to me does. It basically grabs all the signals from Link, from all the meetings, and it serves all the things that have been presented to you in the past. So very easy way where you don't need to think, you don't need to search around and ping your colleague, where was that beautiful presentation? The graph does the work for you. It helps you discover and remember whatever was presented to you. And you get the idea. Modify by me. Again, how many times someone asks you to update a document on a SharePoint document library or on their OneDrive, and again, you kind of vaguely remember, maybe it was you don't remember the URL, you don't remember the folder, and the graph does all of this for you. Yes, you can memorize URL, but here you don't have to remember what folder it's in. Here it is. Modified by me is every piece of assets that I've touched, whether it was in the past week, whether it was a long time ago. And again, the ordering of those signals are based on how relevant those are. How many views did it get? So it's not just alphabetical or historical view of all the things that have been shared, but also how strong some of those signals are. Hey, look, you work on a deliverable, but it's been viewed quite a bit by your team or in your organization, hence we're going to push it first. Or another one that I really love about this is how many times you're working on a deliverable and then you ask your peers to make updates, but you don't notify natively in SharePoint that so-and-so has made an update. And again, the graph does this. It might surface, maybe this piece of asset is the second thing presented to me because not only we're working on this, but my colleague Jem just made an update to it, right? So again, it makes things very predictive, very easy for you to prioritize, to triage, all the things you need to do and be aware of. Now, like you would expect, yes, you can do queries all day long in the graph, like you would expect with any search box. And here I've typed Bill, because I got a colleague, Bill, who was on point to manage the keynote demo at SharePoint conference last week. And what's interesting is the graph showing me, obviously, I get the hierarchy, his direct report and who he reports to. And by the way, this is fictitious data, I should have said. But more importantly, who is he working with? And even more important, we both work with. So potentially, you know, this is not a challenge of 100,000 or 130,000 organizations like Microsoft. I think company of any size, as soon as you're not in the same physical location, whether you're 10, 100 or 1,000, you have that challenge where you can't just know what everyone's doing. And you might not know that new recruit in the marketing team might be working on something that might help you in sales close an opportunity faster. And that's what the graph does. It shows me where we both working with, sorry, and what assets we're working on. So, you know, again, here's all the asset that Bill's working on, and it surface in order of how strong those signals are and the affinity with what I'm doing on a day-to-day basis. So again, another way to think about the graph, it's not so much your background, what university you did, and your experiences, which, don't get me wrong, are extremely important, but it's all about what you actually do on a day-to-day basis. And we think, you know, that's even more important, or that complements massively the expertise and your work experience that you bring in your organization. So one thing I'll click here is this video. And this video is another thing we announced last week to, again, help you work as a network and help you get work done. We announced a new video portal that's available that'll be available. It's Surface by 365, stored in Windows Azure, and basically gives you the ability to have, in this case, a video. Yes, I can have a conversation about this video. I'm not logged into Yammer, and then yes, things are organized by channel, so I can have, you know, the set of videos for, I don't know, sales onboarding, and I can have a set of videos for HR onboarding. I can have the videos for the new managers in my company, the videos on how to use Office 365, et cetera, et cetera. So again, we think it's very exciting. A lot of people want videos. And again, what gets me very exciting is we're connecting all the dots end to end. Yes, you can have video portals based on whatever you need internally. But to me, again, the real value is we're connecting the dots. The videos are not siloed asset that people need to watch, and you have no idea whether people are watching it or whether they're thinking about it. We're connecting the dot to give you the ability to have commenting on those videos. So, hey, maybe the new hire video is missing something, or maybe the sales video is not up to date. And again, your employees can provide feedback. So it's not those siloed assets that I produce, I throw over the fence, and hopefully people will consume it, and it's accurate. No, you get near real-time engagement with your team. Last thing I forgot to mention is in groups, Oslo, everywhere, yes, you get link integration. And unfortunately right now, Bill is not connected, but I would get, you know, if I was showing you my Microsoft vision of the graph, I would get a green bar on the left, and I can certainly escalate if I want to interact with Bill to either instant messaging or voice video, or I can send him a good old-fashioned email to interact. So presence is going to be throughout, not just Oslo, it'll be in groups. So again, you don't have to think, do I need to open link to ping Bill? No, if Bill is green, in context, I can potentially escalate that to something near real time to help me get my job done. So again, to summarize what I've just showed you demo-wise, I showed you a little bit of inline social. I showed you this concept of groups. And then I showed you what we're doing around the Office Graph on Oslo to get to help you with discovery of what everyone's doing in your organization to help you get your job done much faster. So let me go a couple slides, and then I'll take Q&A. So I put this slide together this morning because you might say, Christophe, you're just cruising through this. I get a ton more questions. And guess what? All the content that we delivered last week, there's over 31 hours of enterprise social content. Yes, there's 250 sessions. So I haven't done the calculation of how many days of content this is. Available free of charge. You can watch that on your iPad, on your phone, on your PC. You can just listen to the audio piece. But we get a ton of assets for you. And I put a couple of the highlights, especially around roadmaps. So there's a full 75 minutes with a lengthy demo, including an iPad demo of groups that my colleague Steve Chu did. So definitely watch this. The strategy session, this is a must watch. This is my manager's manager, Darius Patero, who did explain in a lot more depth why are we making those decisions? Why are we investing in those areas? What is the strategy behind that? What are we doing around identity? What are we doing around a single user profile? And more. So definitely watch that. There's a dedicated 75-minute session on the Office Graph alone. So this is a must-watch. And then there was a great one from Adam Pisoni, kind of stepping back. Why is it important to change the way we work? Why is it important to adopt things like enterprise social to stay up to date, to stay competitive, and not become yesterday's business? So again, those are my bias preferred. But there's a ton of customer sessions. There's API session for the developers, and there's adoption sessions. So consume at will, ready yourselves. And then two slides again, or a couple slides that I always stress. Enterprise social is not a technology play. Well, yes, we're doing a ton of things as Microsoft, and I just show you a few. But at the end of the day, that's only 20% of the battle. The bigger battle is the change management, the culture, working in the open, sharing. And that has nothing to do with the technology. And that's something that you need to do to be successful. Otherwise, Yammer is not going to be adopted, or any enterprise social is not going to be adopted, and you're not going to get the benefit. But guess what? We got a ton of assets publicly available. This is the methodology. I'll skip that since it's available. And we've got a dedicated site with a bunch of assets to help you get started. You know, should you start becoming social with corporate comms? Is it the marketing team? Is it the R&D team? Is it the IT team? I don't know. But we got a lot of use cases, a lot of customer examples on where they started and they secured a win, or maybe it didn't work and then they try with another team, another use case, and then over time they get benefits. So definitely don't just look at the beautiful technology and all the things coming, but definitely look at the change management, the cultural aspect to roll this out and be successful. And then this brief slide, again, it's got all the links to all the things you need to stay up to date. Again, it's going to be moving very fast. So you definitely need to subscribe to your favorite Twitter handle, to your favorite blog, because I want you to stay up to date. Not just, I don't know when we'll have a next webcast about this topic, but a lot of things are probably going to change in between. So with that, you know, I'll give you the parting shot, and then I'll switch to Q&A. So hopefully I've talked about this notion of working as a network, that basically our strategy was to bring back in the enterprise all the things we're experiencing in our personal lives to help you work as a network. Things like inline social experiences, the groups, Office Graph on Oslo are all accruing to help you be more agile, help you working as a network on the inside. So with that, go Yammers or recommendations. I'll pause and I'll take Q&A. And for those of you that need to go, thank you very much for your time.